Om Namah Pranavartaya Suddha Jnanaika Murtaye Nirmalaya Prasantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Arunagiri Mupetam Sachidananda Murtim Ramanayiti Prithivyam Vishrutam Jnana Suryam Gahana Hridaya Vidyam Leelaya Bodhayantam Satata Mahamameyam Sadgurum Samsmarami. My pranams. We will continue with our study of Devi Kalottaram. The 67th verse, last verse was 66 where we stopped. 67 is connected to 66. So I will briefly recapitulate what we saw last time and then we will get into the today's verse. We saw last time Ishvara saying that Siddhishta Vividhakaraha Pataladi Rasayanam Pratyakshenaha Labdhvapi Naiva Grinnita Sadhakaha. So he is saying that when somebody is advancing in the spiritual journey, there will come a moment when he will get siddhis of different natures. They will come automatically to him, but he should not lose his concentration and lose himself into using these siddhis. That's a dangerous thing, and that one of the greatest of obstacles and one of the last obstacles that he has to overcome. This is what he said last time. So basically the message is all the siddhis are contained in the Atma Siddhi. So try for it. Always our aim should be to attain the Siddhi called as Atma Siddhi. Bhagavan says this Siddhi, this Atma Siddhi is already available. You don't have to really look for it because it is already available with you. In Ulladu Narpadu, he says in the 35th verse, Siddhamai ul porulai terndu iruttal siddhi. Pira siddhi allam soppanamar siddhihale, he says. He says, this siddhi is always available with you. Siddhamai ul porulai serundiruttal. This vastu, the inner self, is always available to you. It is always radiating its presence. Terndu iruttal. Abide in that. Have the clarity about that state and then abide in that state. That is really the siddhi. The other siddhis that you get, they're all like, siddhis that the powers that you get during dreams. Soppanamar siddhihale. In our dreams, sometimes we meet people who are long dead. So Bhagavan says, you have given life to those people and brought them back to life. Is that not a siddhi? Anyway, those siddhis are going to disappear once you wake up. So they're all not to be really pursued, and don't pursue them. Don't go after them. This is going to be one of the greatest of troubles for you. There is one work by Adi Shankara. I would like to quote one of the verses from Adi Shankara. There is a book called Anatma Shri Vigarhanam. This is the name of the book. Is a very rare text actually. Anatma Shri Vigarhanam. Shri here actually means poison. Shri has many meanings. We know of one meaning, which is Mahalakshmi. But Shri also means poison. Shri Kanta is the name of the Lord Shiva because he has got poison in his neck, in his throat. So he is called as Shri Kanta. So here, Anatma Shri means the poison of not self. The poison called as not self, Anatma, that has to be censured. Vigarhanam means censuring this Anatma Shri. So there he says, one of the most beautiful verses, Abdihi Padbhyam Langritova Tatah Kim. Every verse, every sentence, he has this words, Tatah Kim. So what? Abdihi Padbhyam Langritova. One may be able to walk on water. Tatah Kim. So what? Vayuhu kumbhe udri sthapitova tatah kim. You may be able to, hold your breath. One of the methods in pranayamam is kumbhakam, where you can hold it for a very, very long time. The person who does this almost looks like a corpse. The breath is held within him. This is known as vayu sthambanam. So he may be able to do that for a very, very long time. Several hours he may be able to hold his breath. So what? He says, tatah kim meruhu pano udhrutova. You may be able to lift a mountain and keep it on your palm. You may be so strong that you can lift a mountain also. So what? He says, all these things are nothing compared to the siddhi, which is called yena swatma naiva sakshat krito bhut. If somebody is not able to do sakshat karanam of this atma, one's own atma, then all these other things, all these great things, achievements are of, as though they are nothing. So every saint, every sage warns a sadhaka against this particular falling into the ways of siddhis. So I will go to the next verse, where again about the siddhi, Ishvara's upadesham to Parvati Devi. Sarve te pasubandhasyuhu. All these things are bandhanam, pasubandhanam. Sarve te pasubandhasyuhu. Adhomarga pradayakaha. Etaihi nasti paramuktihi. Chidrupam vyapakam vina. Bhagavan's translation. Ivayavum bandhagamam ijjivanukke. Ivai melum taalunda neri iva. இவைகளில் யாவையினும் அப்பரம முக்தி சுகம் இல்லை வியாபகமாம் சித்து உருவை விட்டு. So what this shloka says is, all these things are only bondages. All these siddhis that you want to display, they're all going to be your bondages. If they automatically come to you without you are asking for it, and they naturally display themselves for a jnani, sometimes the siddhis will happen automatically. Like Bhagavan used to say, in a jnani's presence, things will happen which look like miracles. That is okay. But when you want to display them deliberately, then they become a great bondage for you. Sarvete pasu bandhasyuhu. Like, binding a pasu, a cow, they will bind you. You will not be able to get out of that hole if you are going to put your attention on them. Moreover, Ishvara says, Adho marga pradayakaha. They will lead you into immoral ways. Without your knowing, when you start using these siddhis for the sake of displaying them, you will get into immoral ways, evil ways, and they will pull you down. Adho margam, they will pull you down. Instead of going towards the light, you will be going towards darkness. That's what happens to etair nasti paramuktihi. These things will not give you the mukti sukham. The mukti sukham, the bliss of liberation, is something so extraordinary. These things are alpam before that. They're all just insignificant before that. Etaihi nasti paramuktihi chidrupam vyapakam vina. That one consciousness which pervades everywhere, that alone is the real mukti. You should be able to go towards that and then become one with that one consciousness. Without this, anything else that you do, all these other things are not going to give you the same amount of bliss. They will only pull you down. Only in absolute infinite consciousness, this pure mukti sukham is obtained, says Ishvara. Actually, moksha or mukti is only peace of mind and nothing else. Again, I will quote from Bhagavan in Anubandham. In one place in Anubandham, he says, Chittatin shanti ade siddhama mukti enil. Chittatin shanti, peace of mind, the tranquility of mind alone is mukti. Siddhama mukti, this is already available with you. Siddham, this is there with you already. And that tranquil mind is what you should aim for. Chittatin seigayindri siddhiyadu siddhihal. All these siddhis, they require your mind to be active. Whereas mukti is just the opposite of it. When the mind is active, there cannot be any moksha. So you are actually getting into something which is the opposite of what you really aim to get. Your aim should be that moksha sukham. On the other hand, you are getting into the ways of the mind. Chittatin seigai indri siddhiyadu. All these siddhis, they will not be able to, cannot exercise them unless you are able to exercise your mind, exercise and make your mind active. So you are doing something opposite of what you aim for. So the real meaning of moksham is chittatin shantam, the tranquility of mind. And unless this is there, you will not be able to progress at all. These things are vida mudiyada bandhangal, says Kanakambal in her commentaries. They are all bondages that you will not be able to give up. Moment you get into these siddhis, exercise of these siddhis, then you will not be able to give them up. Ivayavum bandhagamam ijivanukke, says Bhagavan, Ivai melum thalunda neri iva. You will go to all immoral ways. So don't ever think about these things. Etair nasti paramuktihi. Paramukti, that great mukti sukham will not come to you when you are going to exercise all these things. Etaihi nasti, they are all not in these things. Chidrupam vyapakam vina. Unless you are able to abide in that one consciousness which is pervading everywhere, all these things have no meaning at all. So don't waste your time and energy. After having come so far, don't make the mistake of doing these things. These siddhis will expand the ego. Because you started exercising them, you started expecting some appreciation from somebody or the other, and so on. So they will be only keeping on expanding your ego. So don't go anywhere near them, is the advice given. So these two verses, there is a great warning given by Bhagavan and other saints, and also Ishvara here. So this is the 67th verse. I will read out the 68th verse. Yena kena visheshena sarvavastopi yoga dhrit kshetra pitecha sandehat varjayedapi kautukam. And Bhagavan's translation, Yev vishedattalum yella avastayinum tavval ara, he uses a very rare word, tavval ara yogam darittonai evvidattum ayyattal kshetra pidatil kutuhalamai ayyal elin matridanai matru. It's a very interesting verse and a very strange verse also, where Ishvara says, under no circumstance and in all the avasthas that we have, you should not give up this practice. Bhagavan says that when you are engaged in Atma Vicharam throughout the waking state in a very intense manner, this Vicharam continues in the other avasthas also. Without your own effort, even in the sleep, this Vichara continues. Even in the dream state, but the so-called dream state also, what goes on is this Atma Vicharam alone. So in all the avasthas and under every circumstance, you should see to it that this Atma Vicharam continues, all this Jnana Abhyasam continues, this exercise, practice for the ultimate Jnanam, that continues. And then he goes on to say, Kshetra Pitecha Sandehat. You might have engaged in visiting various holy places, sacred places, pilgrimage places. Kshetra Pitam is a pilgrimage place like Tiruvannamalai, Chidambaram, Kashi, and all these places. You may have had the habit of going there all the time and then worshipping in all those places. All these things have been giving you a lot of joy and pleasure and so on. But now that you are embarking on this last stage of your journey, in the spiritual journey, even those things should not be attempted, he says. Kshetra Pitecha Sandehat. Sometimes you may be really having a doubt, am I doing the right thing by leaving them all behind? I used to derive so much of a joy, but will it be okay for me to leave these things? These kind of doubts don't entertain these doubts at all. Kshetra pitecha sandehat varjayedapi kautukam. Kautukam is, a joy. That previously these things were enjoyed by you and they have left some impressions in your mind. Those impressions, they may rise up while you are engaged in this Atma Vicharam. Oh, I have not gone there. It's been a long time since I visited the ashram. Like this, these kind of things will come to your mind. He says, don't entertain them because they're all delusional. They are not real. At one point in time, they were required for you. And without that, you couldn't have come to this level. But now, all your concentration should be only in Atma Vicharam. Don't divert your attention, even if they look to be good activities, holy, sacred activities. These are all known as sadvasanas. There are durvasanas, which all of us are aware of, and we know how to avoid them. But without our knowledge, even sadvasanas, good vasanas or vasanas, whether they are good or bad, because who is the judge of these two things? Only the ego judges something is good, something is bad. At one point in time, it is very important for you to avoid certain things. But right now, tawwal ara, don't slip into that. Tawwal, the word that Bhagavan uses is slipping into an error. That is tawwal. Don't fall from that state of concentrating only on that. Atma puja you have taken up. Bhagavan says, Atma devan padatil in his, Ahamenum Mulai Avidya, Mula Avidya Ahandrida, Aham Ahamaha, Aldum Pagalara, Aham Yenum, Aham Ulil Atma Devan Padatil, Ahamaha, Anisham Ramikave, it ends like that. There he uses the word Atma Deva. The Deva that you are going to worship right now is going to be the Atma Deva. All other forms of worship, you are not going to concentrate now. You are not going to go back to those stages. Tawwalara, you should not fall into that. So he uses a word here. Ishvara uses a word, yoga dhriti. He uses a person who has taken up this yoga, the yoga of merging with the Lord, with the Atman, that Atma Chintanam, that is the yoga. If you are going to fall from that, then that is going to be called as a yoga brashta. You are going to fall from that yoga and then going to fall into a lower grade. All these things are good at one stage, but they are all lower grade. You have taken upon yourself to reach the highest goal. At this point in time, don't concentrate on anything other than this and then stay with this alone. So slipping from the yogi's path is what it meant by yoga dhriti. Kshetra pitecha sandehat varjayedapi. Even then, don't fall from this and then stick to your path. Kautukam. Actually, this word kautukam, and Bhagavan uses an equivalent word kutuhalamai, because these are all the joy that you have experienced at an earlier stage. This kind of happiness and joy and pleasure, they leave some kind of a seed in your mind. They're all vasanas. They have left their seeds. In Bhagavad Gita, there is one verse not directly related to this subject, but there is a verse in the second chapter where Bhagavan Krishna says, Vishayaha vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Rasavarjam is the one that Bhagavan is referring to here as Kautukam. Rasavarjam is that rasa, that delight, that relish that you had. The actual verse talks about, withdrawing your attachment to all the Vishayas. Vishayaha vinivartante. Niraharasya dehinaha. The yogi has completely starved all his senses of the Vishayas. He has starved all the senses of their food, respective food. the sights are the food for the eyes, and the whatever you hear are the food for the ears, and so on. Not the food that you take ordinarily you take is one thing, but these things are all food for other senses. Niraharasya, when you stop feeding them with all these indriyas, with all these things, then for him there is a stage where the enjoyment of having done these things, and then all the sensory pleasures, they take a place in the mind, and they leave the remnants of those joy that will continue to be there till param drishtva nivartate. When finally the realization takes place, that is the time when all these vasanas completely are erased in the mind. By erasing the asanas, the Paramatman is sighted, and the Paramatman is sighted, all the vasanas are completely removed. It's a simultaneous act. Anyway, these things, they leave some kind of a seed of pleasure in your mind, and then don't fall for it. They will rise up, and then they will tell you, no, you have not done this. You have not carried out all these pujas that you used to do. Take pleasure in, let us get involved in that. This kind of a doubt will come to a jnana abhyasi, says Bhagavan, and when such a doubt comes, don't entertain these doubts. Completely give up, and your concentration should be utterly on only the Atma Vicharam, the Atma Chintanam. That alone should be your 24-hour business. All these things are meant for those abhyasis who have taken it upon themselves that I don't want anything from this world except this particular Atma Siddhi. Nothing else will matter to me, not my family, not my career, not my worldly affairs, nothing at all is going to matter to me. The only thing that is of interest to me is only Atma Siddhi. At that point in time, all this advice will be applicable. And when we are in a formative stage, I keep reminding people, when we are in the formative stage, all the things that you have been carrying out, like normal ritualistic puja and other things, are going to be great aids. They will help you to reach the stage. But this is meant for those people who have reached the ultimate stage, and for them the caution is, don't divert your attention to anything else, but be with this particular Atma Vicharam all the time, so that your final goal is reached without any problem. So the 68th verse is an advice again that whatever the earlier things you have been doing, all those things do not matter now. You have arrived. All these steps have taken you to this level at this point in time. Don't look back, and then look only forward, and then achieve the goal of self-realization. So that is the verse number 68. The next verse, the very important verse, Bhagavan Ishvara is going to talk about ahimsa and how important it is for a jnana abhyasi. So the 69th verse says, Krimi Kita Patangascha Tata Devi Vanaspatim Na Nashayet Buddho Jivan Paramartha Matiryataha. Bhagavan's translation is, Krimi Kitam Paravai Kel Satiye. Satiye is addressing Parvati. Sati. Kel Satiye. Listen to me, Parvati. Daru Uru Mudalam. Daru here is the Vanaspati, equivalent of Vanaspati, the trees. Daru Uru Mudalam, Yella Uyirum, all the jivas in this universe, Urupodum Nasamurat Chayavona Nallarijan Unmai Ari Ashrayatona Vari Unmai Arivo Arivu Ashrayatona Vari, he says in this particular thing. Krimi Kitam Paravai, all the insects, worms, and birds, small ones, big ones, starting from the smallest of living things, Ishvara says, including Vanaspati, all the trees, all the plants, they are all having life. முதலாம் எல்லா உயிரும் ஒருபோதும் நாசமுறச் செய்யவுனா. Not only do you destroy them directly, you cannot be the cause of their destruction also. You cannot even be the cause. Even an accidental cause should not happen. You have to be very careful at this stage, because this is one of the highest of principles that one has to follow in the final stages of your practice. Jnanabhyasam. Na nashayet buddho jivanne paramarthamatiriyataha. When your interest is to become one with everything, don't take yourself to be an individual, look at something else other than yourself and kill that or destroy that. Even don't be a cause for their destruction also. Ahimsa is advised as the foremost rule for a jnanabhyasi. And we have Bhagavan before us as a great example. How we used to feel pain even when a tree is hurt. T.K. Sundaresayer records this, that when Bhagavan had given instructions to everybody, whenever you have to really cut something or the other, don't use this iron sickle. They are very sharp-edged ones. They cause a lot of pains. You can do gently. You can take out. Want to take out a fruit or bring down a coconut, you can do that gently. He was walking and then he found an ashram worker on the coconut tree and trying to bring down coconuts. So it seems he asked, he was there on top, he asked him, are you using an iron sickle or are you using a bamboo? So it seems he replied, I am using an iron sickle. Bhagavan silently walked away, showing his annoyance. Silently he walked away from that place. And after some time, somebody came to Bhagavan and reported that this worker, in the process of bringing down a coconut, I believe the coconut fell on his nose and it hurt him terribly. So when this news was conveyed to Bhagavan, it seems, said, sadly, now he will know what it is to be hurt. Now is the time he will know what it is to be hurt. So all his, constantly telling people, we don't have the same amount of oneness that he felt with everything. So we continue to do all these things, and all the kitchen workers used to report all these things. Bhagavan's, constant advice to see that you do not trouble anything, don't trouble any insects or birds or some such thing. And in all your methods, you should be very careful to see that you do not hurt anything. It seems another time, the night time, somebody was plucking fruits from some of the ashram trees. They were plucking fruits in the night time. It seems Bhagavan was passing that way. He happened to pass that way, and then he stood there and then said, why are you not leaving these trees in peace? At least in the night time, let them sleep. Can't you do that in the morning time? Why do you have to do it in the night time? You are not giving them peace. Even in the night time, you are not allowing them to sleep. This is what I believe Bhagavan said. So somebody who is one with the entire universe, he feels the pain of everything around him. There is this good popular story, people would have heard this story, about a monk. A sadhu was passing by and there was a river. In the river, he noticed a scorpion had fallen down and then it was struggling to come out of the water. So he took a leaf, went to the scorpion, lifted it out of the water. But in the process of lifting, the scorpion stung him and fell back into the water. In the process of stinging, it fell back into the water. See, he did it again. Second time also it stung him. He did it several times. But he kept on trying to pull it out of the water, even after receiving so many stings. So somebody who was standing next to him asked him, no, so many times it is stinging. Why are you still trying to save that thing? Then it seems the sadhu replied, it is the dharma of the scorpion to sting, and it is my dharma to save it. So beautifully he summarized the whole thing. Any sannyasi, his foremost dharmam This is ahimsa. That ahimsa should extend not only to ordinary things, but also to things like vanaspati, all these trees, birds, krimi, kita, all these things, they also have life, and they're also, they are living, enjoying things. They are living their life and enjoying life. Don't disturb it. That is the greatest of principle, greatest of dharma that one can take up. That's what this particular verse says. I'll go to the next verse. I'm going fast because these things are mainly conveying the moral stories. Morals one has to follow. Again, on the same subject of ahimsa. Na mulot patanam kuryat patrachedam vivarjayet bhutapidam na kurvanti bhutapidam na kurvita pushpanam cha nikrantanam. And Bhagavan's translation, வேர் எதுவும் தான் பிடுங்க வேண்டாம், இலையினையும் வேறுபடுத்தும் செயலும் வேண்டாமே, சீரி இனாத செய்ய வேண்டாம், எவ்வுயிர்க்கும் பூவும் அனாதரவாய் கிள்ள வேண்டாம். These are all things that we don't even give it a thought, but these are all mentioned as things not to be done, don'ts. They all fall under the category of don't do these things. But in our ritualistic worship, we take it for granted that this is what has to be done and so on. Mulot patanam kuryat, ver eduvum pidunga vendam. There are tender roots. Some of the roots are, offered to the Lord, things like, I don't know the English names, maruvu, we say maruvu, and other tender roots which are sacred for Lord Shiva. They're all offered. They are plucked out and then offered. Ishvara says, plucking out a root is to be avoided totally, because you are not allowing a plant to come to life by taking out the root. So don't do this plucking. Not only the tender roots, patrachedam vivarjayet. Even the leaves should not be taken out. There are many leaves like tulasi leaves, bilva leaves, which are all very holy, very sacred for Vishnu, Shiva, and all that. So don't pluck them. Bhuta pidam na kurvita. You are hurting a living being. They all have life. Bhuta pidam na kurvita. Pushpanam cha vikrintanam. He says, don't even pluck out the flowers. So we know the famous story of Bhagavan's childhood friend. Her name is Lakshmi. So she, after she became a widow, I think she came and then stayed in the ashram. One day, when there was, I think, Girivalam or some such thing, Bhagavan noticed that Lakshmi was plucking a lot of flowers. There was a tree which was in bloom, there were a lot of flowers in the tree, and she was plucking one by one all the flowers. Bhagavan went to her and asked, "What are you doing, Lakshmi?" Then she said, "No, it's so beautiful. These yellow flowers are so beautiful. I just want to make an offer by doing a puja with these flowers." "But you have already plucked so many flowers," Bhagavan said, pointed out. On the ground, there was a cloth, and on the cloth there were so many flowers that were already taken and then dumped there. Why do you want to pluck more flowers? You have already plucked all these things. She said, "It is such a beautiful tree and so many beautiful flowers are there. They will all go a waste. If I don't take them out, they will all become a waste." Waste. Bhagavan was very upset. You think that you have seen this tree in all its beauty and it is enough. Others don't have to see these things. What do you mean by waste? If they are standing along with the tree and then they are giving their, sight to a good scene to all the people to see, is that a wasteful thing? Did you bring up this tree? Did you nurse the tree? Did you plant? Did you water the tree? Achim's he really was very upset, and then he went on in this manner for some time, showing his annoyance. So Lakshmi was totally taken aback by that, stunned by that. And she says that later on, whenever she passed by a flower bush or a tree, in her mind, she will make an offering to Bhagavan. All these are for you, Bhagavan. And then she stopped plucking flowers from that day onwards. Same thing is said about Yachammal. The story is also very popular. When Bhagavan was in the Virupaksha cave during the Virupaksha time, Yachammal, I think, took a vow saying that I will do puja with 1 lakh tulasi leaves or maybe bilva leaves, something. 1 lakh leaves I will pluck, and then I will give a laksharchana, laksha bilvarchana or some such thing. She had that sankalpam in her mind. So when she started collecting the bilvam, but summer intervened and she was not able to find any bilva leaves at all. So she went and complained to Bhagavan. Bhagavan, I had this particular wish, but now I am not getting any bilva leaves alone. And so Bhagavan asked her, how many have you plucked so far? She mentioned a number. So many more are remaining, she said. So for each one of them, you pinch yourself hard. In the place of offering a leaf, you can pinch yourself. It seems Yachammal said, no, but that will be very painful. Then Bhagavan said, now you know. The same amount of pain will be experienced by these leaves when you pluck them out. So that was again a big revelation for Yachammal, and she stopped doing such things afterwards. So everywhere, all the time, Bhagavan's advice and also Ishvara and all other people are doing. There are other subtler methods of engaging in puja. These are all okay at one stage. But the subtler thing, get into the paths of, japam, dhyanam, slowly improve, make it more and more subtle, and then get involved in Atma Vicharam to the very base of the thinking mind, what is behind the mind. So go after all these things, practices, and you should leave behind one by one all these other ones which are gross in nature, and then go towards something that is more and more subtle. So, the ahimsa is something that has been advised in such a very strong manner by all the people. We wish that we can only follow this, we continue to follow our traditional method of doing puja, but the best way of doing things would be as Bhagavan advises, that let the tree hold the flowers, make an offering of all the flowers along with as it exists now, rather than plucking it out and offering to them. So one by one, every one of these things, these are all methods by which Bhagavan says you should pull yourself, gradually move from more gross level to a more subtle level, and then finally get into the state of being consciousness.